Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for December the 12th. Today we are reading together, finishing up the text of Ezra. We'll be reading together chapters 9 and 10 here of Ezra. Let me get that text up on the screen for us, and we will read along together here, beginning in Ezra chapter 9. Remember, we talked about how there's various obstacles and struggles that Zerubbabel and Ezra and Nehemiah are going to end up facing in their various efforts in rebuilding and restoration within Judah and Jerusalem. Well, the issue that Ezra is going to face is concerning marriages to foreign women and what the people are to do about that and the issues that has created within the people themselves. So let's read here in Ezra chapter 9, beginning of verse number 1. Ezra chapter 9, verse number 1. After these things had been done, the leaders approached me and said, the people of Israel, the priests and Levites, have not separated themselves from the surrounding peoples, whose detestable practices are like those of the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Ammonites, Moabites, Egyptians, and Amorites. Indeed, the Israelite men have taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and their sons, so that the holy seed has become mixed with the surrounding peoples. The leaders and officials have taken the lead in this unfaithfulness. When I heard this report, I tore my tunic and robe, pulled out some of the hair from my head and beard, and sat down devastated. Everyone who trembled at the words of the God of Israel gathered around me because of the unfaithfulness of the exiles, which I set, or while I sat devastated until the evening offering. At the evening offering, I got up from my time of humiliation with my tunic and robe torn. Then I fell on my knees and spread out my hands to Yahweh my God and said, my God, I am ashamed and embarrassed to lift my head toward you, my God, because our iniquities are higher than our heads, and our guilt is as high as the heavens. Our guilt has been terrible from the days of our ancestors until the present. Because of our iniquities, we have been handed over, along with our kings and priests, to the surrounding kings, and to the sword, captivity, plundering, and open shame as it is today. But now, for a brief moment, grace has come from Yahweh our God to preserve a remnant for us and give us a stake in his holy place. Even in our slavery, God has given us a little relief and light to our eyes. Though we are slaves, our God has not abandoned us in our slavery. He has extended grace to us in the presence of the Persian kings, giving us relief so that we can rebuild the house of our God and repair its ruins, to give us a wall in Judah and Jerusalem. Now, our God, what can we say in light of this? For we have abandoned the commands you gave through your servants the prophets, saying, the land you're entering to possess is an impure land. The surrounding peoples have filled it from end to end with their uncleanness by their impurity and detestable practices. So do not give your daughters to their sons in marriage, or take their daughters for your sons. Never pursue their welfare or prosperity, so that you will be strong, eat the good things of the land, and leave it as an inheritance to your sons forever. After all that has happened to us because of our evil deeds and terrible guilt, though you, our God, have punished us less than our iniquities deserve and have allowed us to survive, should we break your commands again and intermarry with the peoples who commit these detestable practices? Wouldn't you become so angry with us that you would destroy us, leaving neither remnant nor survivor? Yahweh, God of Israel, you are righteous, for we survive as a remnant today. Here we are before you with our guilt, though no one can stand in your presence because of this. While Ezra prayed and confessed, weeping and falling face down before the house of God, an extremely large assembly of Israelite men, women, and children gathered around him. The people also wept bitterly. Then Shechaniah, son of Jael, an Elamite, responded to Ezra, we have been unfaithful to our God by marrying foreign women from the surrounding peoples, but there is still hope for Israel in spite of this. Therefore, let's make a covenant before our God to send away all the foreign wives of their children, according to the counsel of my Lord and of those who tremble at the command of our God. Let it be done according to the law. Get up, for this is a matter, or excuse me, get up, for this matter is your responsibility, and we support you. Be strong and take action." Then Ezra got up and made the leading priests, Levites, and all Israel take an oath to do what had been said. So they took the oath. Ezra then went from the house of God. Excuse me. Verse number 6 of Ezra chapter 10. Ezra then went from the house of God and walked to the chamber of Jehohanan, son of Eliashib, where he spent the night. He did not eat food or drink water because he was mourning over the unfaithfulness of the exiles. They circulated a proclamation throughout Judah and Jerusalem that all the exiles should gather at Jerusalem. Whoever did not come within 3 days would forfeit all his possessions, according to the decision of the leaders and elders, and would be excluded from the assembly of the exiles. So all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered in Jerusalem within 3 days. On the 20th day of the ninth month, all the people sat in the square at the house of God, trembling because of this matter and because of the heavy rain. Then the priest Ezra stood up and said to them, "You have been unfaithful by marrying foreign women, adding to Israel's guilt. Therefore make a confession to Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, and do his will. Separate yourselves from the surrounding peoples and your foreign wives." Then all the assembly responded loudly, "Yes, we will do as you say." But there are many people, and it is the rainy season. We don't have the stamina to stay out in the open. This isn't something that can be done in a day or two, for we have rebelled terribly in this matter. Let our leaders represent the entire assembly, and let all those in our towns who have married foreign women come at appointed times, together with the elders and judges of each town, in order to avert the fierce anger of our God concerning this matter. Only Jonathan, son of Asahel, and Jazai, uh, Jazaiah, son of Tivka, opposed this, with Meshullam and Shabbatai, the Levites, supporting them. The exiles did what had been proposed. The priest Ezra selected men who were family heads, all identified by name, to represent their ancestral families. They convened on the first day of the month, first day of the 10th month to investigate the matter. And by the day of the first month, they had dealt with all the men who had married foreign women. The following were found to have married foreign women from the descendants of the priest, from the descendants of Jeshua, son of Jozadak, and his brothers Maaseiah, Eleazar, Jarib, and Gedaliah. They pledged to send their wives away, and being found guilty, they offered a ram from the flock for their guilt. Hanani and Zebediah from Emer's descendants, Maaseiah, Elijah, Shemaiah, Jehiel, and Uzziah from Harim's descendants, Eloni, Maaseiah, Ishmael, Nathanael, Josabad, and Elasa from Pashur's descendants, the Levites, Josabad, Shemai, Keliah, that is Kelida, Pethahiah, Judah, and Eleazar, the singers, Elishib, the gatekeeper, Shalom, Talim, and Uri, the Levites, Parosh's descendants, Ramiah, Isaiah, Melchijah, Majamim, Eleazar, Malchijah, and Benaiah, Elam's descendants, Mattaniah, Zechariah, Jehiel, Abdi, Jeremoth, and Elijah, Zatu's descendants, Elionai, Eliashib, Mattaniah, Jeremoth, Zabad, and Aziza, Zabai's descendants, Jehonanan, Hananiah, Zabai, and Athli, Bani's descendants, Meshullam, Maluk, Adiah, Jeshub, Shael, and Jeremoth, Fahath Moab's descendants, Adnah, Chela, Benaniah, Maaseiah, Mattaniah, Bezalel, Benui, there we go, and Manasseh. Harim's descendants, Eleazar, Ishijah, Malchijah, Shemaiah, Shimeon, Benjamin, Maluk, and Shemariah. Hashum's descendants, Mattanai, Mattatha, Zabda, Zabad, Elilapheth, Jeremiah, Manasseh, and Shemai. Bani's descendants, Maada, Amram, Uel, Benaiah, Bediah, Cheluhi, Benaiah, Meremoth, Elishib, Mattaniah, Mattanai, Jaasu, Bani, Binui, Shemai, Shelemiah, Nathan, Adiah, Mak Nod Ebai, Shashai, Sharai, Azarel, Shelemiah, Shemariah, Shalom, Amariah, and Joseph, Nebo's descendants, Jael, Mathaniah, Zabad, Zabina, Jedi, Joel, and Benaiah. All of these unfortunate people, which their mistake led me to have to read all their names. All of these, verse 44, had married foreign women, and some of the wives had given birth to children. And that is the text of Ezra chapters 9 and 10. Ezra chapters 9 and 10. All right, so Zerubbabel, in his portion of the rebuilding process, faced the issue of people opposing him and the people in the rebuilding of the temple. Well, here Ezra's issue that he is facing is the fact that many of the exiles, it seems, best I could tell, I'm assuming that this is over the last 60 years. Remember, there's a 60-year gap between chapters 6 and 7. So I'm assuming this, and we all know what happens when we assume. I get in trouble. But my assumption is that these people had married these foreign women during this time, and that was a big issue. It was a big issue because uh, the law in Deuteronomy chapter 20 and verse 18 specifically said that they don't need to be intermarrying with the women because or for the reason of so that they won't teach you to do all the detestable acts they do for their God. So this wasn't an issue of this isn't a race related issue. This is an issue concerning straight ethnicity. And we know that because we read within the text that there were certain individuals who were non-Jews who did end up joining the nation of Israel. I think about Rahab from the initial Exodus. I think about Ruth. These were not Jewish women, but they were integrated into the nation of Israel. But the main issue is that they became Yahweh followers. And that's the thing that really want to stress here is that they it's not just that this is an ethnic issue, even though it does mention so that the holy seed has become mixed with the surrounding peoples. I mean, yes, that's the case, but that's not the main issue again. It's not ethnicity. The issue is they that these women could lead the men of Israel to go after the pagan gods. Case in point of that, Solomon, all of his hundreds of wives, the text says explicitly, led his heart away from Yahweh. And so that's the main issue here. So this is brought to Ezra's attention, and he is very distraught over this. It says at the end of verse number 3 that he tore his tunic, his robe, pulled out some of his hair from his head and beard, and sat down devastated. Um, so all these people gather around him because of this issue, and he ends up getting up eventually during this time of humiliation, and he spreads out. The text says he fell on his knees and spread out his hands to Yahweh and just speaks to Yahweh concerning this issue. That yes, I recognize that this is an issue, and I recognize that it is issues such as this, not following your commands, that initially led us into exile and that initially got us into trouble. And I have no doubt that you could that you could destroy us all again if need be. So I'm acknowledging that this is an issue, and I am acknowledging that this is a very serious issue. So he lays all this out before God, lays out their iniquity, lays out their sin, and just pours this out before God. So while he's praying this at the end of chapter 9, into chapter 10, an extremely large assembly of Israelite men, women, and children gathered around him. So they also recognize that this is an issue. This is not just something that Ezra sees as wrong. The people having this reality brought to their knowledge, they all gather together. Shechaniah, he recognizes that there has been unfaithfulness to Yahweh by marrying these foreign women from the surrounding areas. But notice what he says here: there is still hope for Israel in spite of this. Let's make a covenant. Let's send away the foreign wives. Let's have all this done. Let us rectify the issue here. We do not have to continue going in this wrong direction. we can send these women away and remedy this in this particular way. So the Israel or Ezra gets up in verse number 5. Um, and they all take an oath. Ezra goes from the house of God. He goes to the chamber of Johanan, the son of Elishib, and he spends the night there. He doesn't eat, he doesn't drink. Again, this is all because he is mourning over the unfaithfulness of the exiles. So then they begin to proclaim a proclamation that everybody needs to gather in the next 3 days. We're going to gather together so that we can all, in one accord, seek to rectify this issue. If you don't do this, if you don't gather together, then you forfeit your right of your possessions. So this, again, very serious issue that they recognize needs to be addressed. So everybody comes together. They're trembling not just over this matter, but almost, almost uh, providentially, maybe, I don't know. It's pouring down rain, and so their spirits are like the weather spirits. Everything is down. Everybody's miserable. Then the priest Ezra stands up and he says, "You've been unfaithful by marrying these foreign women, adding to Israel's guilt. Make a confession. Separate yourselves from the surrounding peoples and your foreign wives." And then all the assembly, they echo this together, like, "Yes, we will do as you say." But here's the thing: there's a lot of us that need to do this. It's the rainy season right now. We don't have the stamina to stand right here and do it at this second. And this isn't even something that can be done in a day or two, for we have rebelled terribly in this matter. Meaning there's a lot of us that need to address this issue. So so let our leaders represent the people in this. Let them be the driving force in all of this. Let those in our towns who have married foreign women come at appointed times together with the elders and the judges of each town in order to avert the fierce anger of our God concerning this matter. There's a few people that opposed it, but the vast majority of people went along with what Ezra has proposed. And so they end up convening on the first day of the 10th month to investigate the matter. And on the first day of the first month, they had dealt with all the men who had married four women. So it took a couple of months for them to go through this process. You might be wondering, well, what took so long? Well, it's I'm going to go on a limb and say that quite possibly, again, the issue here being not ethnic but religious in nature means that some of these women might have become Yahweh followers. That might have been the case. They might have followed in the footsteps of women like Rahab and women like Ruth who began to worship Yahweh. If they're Yahweh followers, if they've done that, then there's no need for them to be put away. Again, this is not purely an issue of ethnicity. This is an issue of they're going to carry their hearts away from Yahweh. Remember, that's what Ezra is really focusing on, is the teaching of the law and the following of the law and the spreading of the law. These foreign women bringing in their paganistic practices, that's going to hinder that. So those who have done this, those who have sinned in this way, those who have women who are not Yahweh followers, they need to be put away. And that's going to take some time. So it seems if it goes from the 10th, the first day of the 10th month to the first day of the first month, it took a couple of months for them to get through all this process. But eventually they do get through out all this process. We get to verse 44 that says, "All of these had married foreign women, and some of the wives had given birth to children." So again, the issue facing Ezra is that in the rebuilding of the community of Israel and the rebuilding of the following of the law and Torah, these people who have transgressed by marrying women, by marrying foreign women and inviting the issues that come along with that, they've got to address these issues. They've got to put away these women so that their hearts aren't continually drawn away towards their pagan gods. And it's a tough process. It's not an easy process. Again, you got families that are being torn apart during all this. But this is a result of people not following the law to begin with. And instead of following Deuteronomy 20, verse 18, instead of doing that, they rebelled, and it led to all these issues. And again, it's just a very, very sad chapter here in the history of the rebuilding of the people of Israel. Now, for us, you might be thinking, that's a really bummer way to end this text. But let's remember that Ezra and Nehemiah were one text together in a single scroll. So really, for us, we're just going to turn the page into Nehemiah and start focusing on that. Nehemiah is going to focus on the physical rebuilding of Jerusalem. We've already talked so far with Zerubbabel about the rebuilding of the temple. We've talked now with Ezra about the rebuilding of the people. Now we're going to talk about the rebuilding of Jerusalem itself and focusing on what needed to be done in order to accomplish that text. And Nehemiah is going to be the leader of this next section as we get into Nehemiah 1 tomorrow. If you have any questions or comments about this text here in Ezra 9 or 10, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me today on this Tuesday. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and hope you'll join me again tomorrow as we read together in Nehemiah chapter 1 and Nehemiah chapter 2. Take care, and God bless.